Welcome back to another episode of MC Airsoft. My name is Mark, and today we're going to be talking about the Gunfather Milsim Sling. Now, as far as I know, it doesn't have a name to it. I suggested Shogun Sling because he's got a samurai vibe going on. But either way, it's the only sling he's got right now, so yeah. So a couple things of note that are going to change for the production model, or whatever you want to call it, because this is the first version. Namely, is going to be this clasp here. Right? He went with the triangle version. On the final version, this is a oval clasp, carabiner, whatever you want to call it. And it works just fine. No complaints there. So, first, what's my experience with it? Well, I've ran it at a couple games now here at my local field. A couple games were a day's worth of play up in Vegas, and then Cartel Wars, which was hosted by Lion Claws, went out this last weekend. Other videos will be coming about that shortly. So first thing, what is it? Let me put this down for right now. Okay, what is it? It is some kind of nylon webbing, fairly substantial nylon tubing, maybe, whatever. A bungee point. Now, I don't know if it's going to be resolved in the future, but as for right now, the tan ones, for some reason, he said, are stiffer than the black ones. Your mileage might vary whenever you see this video, but yeah, just keep that in mind. Obviously, I like it starting stiffer, and then over time it's going to break in. The main reason that I purchased this one, one of the main reasons, is because my old 1-point bungee sling is aging. It's probably over 10 years old, probably closer to like 12, 13 years old at this point, and the bungee is all but worn out. So it no longer has any stretch to it. So yeah, so this means longevity to me. You get probably my favorite hook I've ever used. It's fully rotational. That's fine. My favorite part is with one thumb or with your pointer finger. You can very easily go ahead and throw that onto any sling point you got. Very sturdy, no issues. Yeah, no, I love that clip. It's very handy. And I mean, that's pretty much it. There's some what feels like metal, might be just very sturdy plastic, attachment point there, adjustment on both sides. But it's a very basic sling, but that's the beauty of it. A lot of these other companies are starting to put out slings that are intricate. They have a lot going on, and because of that, they're heavy, they're complicated. There's extra straps and webbing to get tangled up, but this one doesn't do that. And a thing of note, again, this is an oval version. He might still have these, so you can request it if this part is something you're interested in. But it does come apart, so you could have a hard point attachment here. Guess I should have brought this closer to the camera. And then if I don't have my QD on here right now. Actually, it is right here, because apparently I'm planned out today. So you could throw a QD mount on the front there. you can take your you can take your clip, you can throw it on however you choose to wear your 2-point. You can go 2-point, have, you know, whatever you need to do with that 2-point. You can sling it on your back just fine, whatever, that's cool. And then you can take that same spindle, and you're not going to get the free rotation that you normally would with the with it in a solely 1-point configuration, but you can easily go from 1-point to 2-point. And you do have that bungee there if you need to switch shoulders, whether you're coming over, right, or you're staying same side dominant. You can do that as well. It's a little awkward and cumbersome. Honestly, if you're going in close, it should just be in the 1-point position if you're at a CQB field. Now this is hanging low, because one, that's how I like it. And I'll show you how I wear the sling in a second, but two, it goes over a chest rig with magazines, so it sticks out a bit further. So taking that back off, I'll show you how I set it up, which is weird. So there's two ways to wear a 1-point sling, and we'll go over both, but essentially it is strong side sling and weak side sling. Yeah. So this is the attachment point I was talking about. It is a locking carabiner. So one thing of note, I did have this unscrew on me at one point during lion claws. Didn't even notice until I took off the sling at the end of the day. So it fits well enough that it didn't come undone. So we'll go over the more common way to wear a 1-point. That is sling over the bungee. The bungee goes over the same side that you're working on with your rifle predominantly. The other side goes under your arm there. Now I'm a left-handed shooter for rifles, so just swap this, although I think the camera does mirror things on its own. Still haven't figured that part out, not tech savvy. So having it like this means that I can very easily go from my left shoulder like I like it. I can do all of those things. I can transition however I want to transition. You know, however you transition personally, but I can do that just fine. What this allows me to do though is it allows me to take it from my left side, sling it on my right side. It's going to maybe hit the back of my knee, don't really care, especially if I'm wearing knee pads. And then if I want it back online, maybe I'm working from the holster, if I'm doing same side, but I can do whatever I want. I can even take it, sling it behind me fully. I can put it in a bungee like I have set up on my belt, which I've gone over in previous videos, but I'll also be going over in the Lion Claws loadout coming up later. But you know, it allows me to do everything I need to do from here just fine. Now the problem is that I shoot pistols right-handed and rifles left-handed. So if I go to sling to my weak side, that's where I'm drawing the pistol from. It's also where I stow some extra magazines. Again, Lion Claws video, Lion Claws loadout video. So that's going to impede my drawing because now I have to come around the rifle. So that's a consideration. If you shoot pistols on the same side as the rifles, so then it doesn't really affect that, and you can draw with your the same side, whether it's right hand or left hand, doesn't really matter, and start firing, right? So this is one way of wearing it. I don't typically wear it this way, but this way allows you to break it down, reload, come back online. You can come into high port, reload. I don't know why you would reload from low port, but you can do it. I'm sure there's a situation for it. But this allows proper manipulation just fine if you're not cross-dominant. If you're cross-dominant, then when you go to sling your rifle, if you're not just dropping it dead center, it's going to cause some issues. Now, on the note of one-point slings, I normally wear gear on my chest. I have, a bit of a gut, and so I have never had this flop down and hit me where the sun don't shine, right? I've also never tried to run like this, so that might change things. I've always tossed it off to the side so I can move about, I can do whatever I need to. But again, I don't tend to wear my sling this way. This is just a more common way of wearing it. Now, how do I wear my sling? I loop one side under my strong side arm. Again, bungee up, right? Because the reason bungee goes up is if you have this nice and tightened, it allows you to pull against that bungee and get some extra mobility out of it. But as you can see, when the rifle falls, even drops down, right, the bungee doesn't extend. I can force an extension, but it doesn't extend on its own. So it's a little stiffer, but you can force it, right? Now, I loop it under my strong side, which means that if I'm clearing the rifle to grab my pistol, then it goes to the opposite side as my pistol, so I can draw out my pistol. For me, it's a little bit faster, but mostly it's just what I'm used to, right? I'm used to holsters being predominantly right-handed, pistols being predominantly right-handed. It's just a lot easier. Rifles, I've adapted, no problem. But drawing from a pistol, or drawing a pistol, and holster options and things like that, just always felt more natural with my right hand. I'm also right hand dominant, left eye dominant, so I'm weird. So the only issue I've run into with this sling so far is from that cross dominancy, right? So if I'm firing, and I go to reload, whether that's coming down my chest or coming down to my belt line, whatever I need to do, I still break down my rifle into my work zone. Maybe it's a little bit old school, but that's what I was always taught. That's just what I do. So I can either break it down here and reload, or I can break it down into the pocket of my shoulder, reload, depending on what I need to see and how high I can put up my barrel, how much cover I have. This is honestly more stable and I can see more of the field, but this is better if I'm tucked behind cover, right? So just depending on what you're doing. So the problem I ran into was this loop, because it's not substantial, which is a good thing. We'll get to that in a second. But because that's not substantial, I had to significantly loosen it, so that way, let's see if I can do this without my arm in the way. So that way when I break down, you see the buttstock can snag on that. It happens a lot less if your sling is looser, so it kind of folds out of the way. But even then, it can get caught up, or your sling can go in, or your rifle buttstock could get inside of that. So that's something to keep in mind. That is not really an issue to this one. Maybe if it was more substantial material, but then that kind of defeats the point, right? But yeah, that's it is almost solely because of my cross dominancy, right? That is really my only complaint with this rifle sling. No issue. There were multiple times over the time using it that I've had to sling it without my belt set up. It's fine, it's relatively comfortable. It's not as comfortable as like something with big old padding, but then you have to contest with big old padding, right? So the main selling point to this, I haven't weighed it, but this thing weighs practically nothing. If you take off the hook, it weighs realistically nothing, right? My best guess, and I should have weighed it before the video, so let me do that now. All right, sorry about that. So it weighs 142 grams. You can do whatever conversions you want with that. I do a lot of sword stuff, so I'm used to measuring things in grams, but 142 grams. So this thing weighs practically nothing, which is a huge benefit, because a lot of people have a misconception about what a one-point sling is, and that leads to a lot of confusion, a lot of complaints about one-point slings. Oh, one-point slings aren't comfortable to wear, they don't hold it for long periods of time, they don't do this or that. And those comments are really missing the point of what a one-point sling is. The one-point sling is essentially just a lanyard, right? It is basically just a lanyard. Now you can do some other things with it and have some better, more comfortable or whatever retention, and you can put pads on it and make it more comfortable, you know, whatever, or sling it through a plate carrier. I don't like doing that, but you know, other people do. But that's a fundamental misconception of what a one-point sling is. One-point slings are for fighting. That's it. They are, if you take off sprinting and need that rifle tethered to you, that's one point. If you're moving through hallways and, you know, maybe you're in a scenario where you need to be able to go hands-on, maybe you know, it's a high-value target game and you actually have to restrain them in some way, or, you know, for the real steel shooters out there, you might have to go hands-on. The one point makes sure it doesn't get taken from you, and you can go immediately hands-on. You can immediately drop it, go hands-on. It is for if you trip and fall and need that thing attached to you. It is for if, like Lion Claws, or the Cartel Wars game, for instance, we had to plant little flags, and I didn't even bother with my bungee on the first batch that I planted. I just threw it behind me, went to work, and went back to it. Took all of like 5 minutes to do, something like that. Probably less, but it seemed like 5 minutes. So this is not a weight-carrying device, right? This is not something that you're going to throw on your hunting rifle and trek through the mountains for 30-odd miles hunting some elk. It's not, you know, if you're doing recce stuff, this might not be the sling for you unless you couple it with a bungee, right? If you're doing long range work, you know, we're not shooting long range, but walking long range, this might not be the thing for you. Is that a good thing? Maybe not. Maybe it is. Is it a bad thing? I would say no, because this is, to me, the epitome of a one-point sling. Now, I did have some critiques. Maybe Rob will incorporate them later. Maybe not. That's up to him and what he sees fit. He is a SWAT instructor, so he probably knows better than I do. But I just gave him what I would like to see out of it. You know, because that's all you can do with critique. But no, I think these are pretty much the epitome of what a one-point sling is. I might order a custom one later with some certain lengths on it, bungee and things like that. Yeah, no, I think that this is pretty much the epitome of what a one-point sling is, because it's light, it stays out of your way, it's everything you need and nothing you don't. And that's what makes a sling good. You know, it's a little different if you're a saw gun or something like that, where you need help supporting the weight. That's a little bit different. Or if you're planning on doing a lot of recce walks with like DMR rifles, things like that, you know, obviously get something that has load-bearing capabilities and is comfortable for the long walks. But If you're in the market for a 1-point, which I think everyone should have a 1-point, or at least try out a 1-point, especially if you're doing mostly like CQB stuff, which honestly most airsoft is CQB. We don't really do long range other than the reconnaissance patrols and things. Try out a 1-point. I recommend this one, and probably the best part about it is at the time I bought this, which was about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that. At the time I bought this, it was $30 plus shipping. So you can't really beat the price. And again, like I said, I think this is about as good as 1-point Sling gets. So yeah, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, throw them down in the comments. I'll answer them, or go ahead and getting a phone call. Or go ahead and hop on over to Gunfather Milsim, his channel. I think he has a video on this. If not, he probably should. But ask him any other questions you might have that I can't answer. But until next time, stay safe, stay hydrated.